Whoa, he has trouble with the snap, and the ball is free.
Okay, next question.
I'm a horse football coach right now.
You know, it got shoved up. It got shoved, right?
What's up, Spartans fans? Welcome to the 82nd episode of the Spartan Savants podcast. We are lucky to be joined by the host of the West Pirates podcast, Erik, who will be joining me and Travis today. The West Pirates are the Northwestern representative for the College Huddle. Obviously, with Michigan State hiring Pat Fitzgerald and his long history at Northwestern, we wanted to bring on Erik to talk about that a little bit. First off, Erik, thanks for coming on. We really appreciate it. Want to give you a chance to, of course, plug your show as well.
Sure. Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. It's fun to connect with fellow pods in the Huddle Network, etc. So, candidly, I'm not the host. That is the designation of Sam Walter, our fearless leader. But we've been talking weekly about Northwestern sports for about 15 years now.
Oh,
so
wow.
it's a labor of love, but we love it. So that's
Good. And the West Lot Pirates. Can I get some background on that name? Because when I heard the name, I did not immediately associate that as a Northwestern podcast.
No, it's all good. So the West Lot is in the old Ryan Field, which is no longer. There were two tailgating lots. We were always in the West Lot, and we started flying a pirate flag at our tailgate, and then
right, there you go.
I don't know, like 6 or 7 years into that experience. It was actually at my wedding. Sam pulled myself and our buddy John together. I was like, guys, we should do a podcast, and that was the name we came up with, and we've been going ever since. But yeah, it doesn't scream Northwestern off the top, does it?
No, but now I get the connection. I figured I had to do something with tailgating.
Yeah.
But again, we really appreciate you coming on. You know, obviously, Pat Fitzgerald had a long, successful run at Northwestern. And I just want to start off by getting your thoughts on this hire for MSU. As far as, do you think it's a good fit? Do you think it's a good hire? And what fans can expect in East Lansing with Pat Fitzgerald coming in?
Yeah, I mean, I won't lie. This is, I don't know if painful is the right word. Emotional for Northwestern Nation here. Yeah. Not only is Fitz the longest, tenured coach at Northwestern, he's, the most successful. He, was the face of the team that went to the Rose Bowl in '95 out of nowhere and kind of reset the potential of the program. Just to put it in like a little bit of context. So Northwestern's administration in the 70s and 80s basically believed that the academic reputation of the school would be buoyed by having a bad football team.
Mm-hmm.
So they actively did not invest in facilities and the team, et cetera.
Right.
And after the Rose Bowl, applications went up like 300%.
Yeah.
And the school that has one of the best business schools in the nation realized the power of free marketing.
Yeah.
And, the rest is history, as they say. But so like Fitz was on the forefront of, everything. Mm-hmm. He was everything to Northwestern. So everything that happened a couple of years back is what it is. And, I don't think we need to rehash that, but I think, we talked about this on our podcast this week too. And we're kind of two minds. I think the first is that from a culture sense and from if Mark D'Antonio is kind of the benchmark bellwether of the Michigan State culture, Fitz is a center of the plate fit for what Michigan State was, how they operated, how they like to play, that blue collar mentality, that defensive mindset. It's a really good hire from that perspective. And I think the biggest question, I mean, so in one sense, I applaud Michigan State for doing what Wisconsin was unwilling to do, which was recognize a culture misfit in Jonathan Smith and move on from him. 2 years in, they say give coaches 3 years, et cetera. They didn't in Michigan State. I think it makes a ton of sense. And to swing the pendulum from Smith, who was a West Coast guy, an offensive-minded guy, a younger head coach, et cetera, to pick up now Fitz, who is very defensive-minded, Midwest, Big Ten, all that stuff. I mean, it's a big pendulum swing, but it makes a ton of sense. And the upside is Fitz rebuilding the defensive culture at Michigan State.
Yeah.
The leveraging all of his connections with high schools in the Midwest recruiting footprint, and that's those are the reasons that this is that this hire was made, we assume, and it makes a lot of sense for Michigan State. The other side of the coin is that, scandal notwithstanding, 3 of the last 4 years at Northwestern during Fitz's tenure were 3 of the worst 4 years that we had experienced since before that Rose Bowl.
Yeah.
And the question is how much of that is a couple of bad decisions that he made around a defensive coordinator hire. Just the having been at one place for 17 years, your voice gets tired, you get tired. Like, how much did he need a reset? So there's, to me, that's the big open question right now of are you guys getting the Fitz of 2008? Or are you getting the Fitz of 2018? Because 2 very different entities. And he seems very motivated. He seems refreshed. So, like, that's potentially a boon for Michigan State. The far other end of the spectrum is, or I guess maybe a prognostication. I'm curious how you guys feel about this too. But I think it is because of that culture fit, because of where he comes from and how he operates. I think it's highly likely that he can improve on the experience y'all have had over the last, 2 to 6 years.
Yeah.
But I think in 3 years' time, going 7-5, 8-4, getting to a bowl game, well, that would be great. I don't think that's what Michigan State or the Michigan State brass really want. And I don't know that Fitz can deliver what D'Antonio did, being competitive with Michigan and Penn State and Ohio State on a year in and year out basis. He, for a lot of reasons that, that was not something he could do at Northwestern. Whether he can deliver it at Michigan State is kind of the I guess the $1 million question in a few years, if he persists as head coach, or if y'all are looking again.
Yeah, well, let's hope we're not looking again.
No, I'm kind of sick of that already.
yeah, and I think everything you said is spot on, and I think short term, and Travis, you can jump in. The Michigan State fans just want to see the floor raised.
Yeah,
the 4-8 stuff, the not making a bowl game. To me, I think that's where it's completely unacceptable. But I would also say that the ceiling is not, 8-4 most years, with one time every 4 or 5 years competing for a Big Ten title. I think that the target is higher than that. I don't know either if Pat Fitzgerald can achieve that. But I think with the options that were available to us, I think that this is just, I don't want to say it's the best they could have done, because I do think they could have gone out, and I think Brian Kelly probably would have listened. And
that's the name I was going to ask.
I wouldn't have loved that hire to be. I feel like there's momentum that we haven't had in at least 2 or 3 years, maybe even farther. Right. The Smith fit always just felt awkward from the very beginning, and I think me, along with a lot of people, Trev, I think you would agree, thought at the time this can work. But you saw it pretty quickly that it wasn't going to work.
It became pretty clear when he didn't realize what was going on with the Michigan game. And all that it was a very rough pill to swallow and keep watching every week with how things were going. And with the Brian Kelly thing, there's a lot of animosity between Michigan State fans and Brian Kelly being at Notre Dame. So I don't think that was ever going to be a fit, even though there's those rumors out there that he was assembling his staff and his GM or whatever, expecting the job. I don't think that was ever going to happen.
Yeah, but I think if we can go, I think making the bowl game those first 3 years, if Pat Fitzgerald first 3 seasons goes 7-5, 8-4, 8 or some combination of that, that's going to keep fans at bay for the first 3 years. I think there will be expected, at a certain point, there's going to be, you need to make a jump, but I think we just want to see competitive football again in the short term. Is that fair, Travis?
Yeah. And Erik, you mentioned that, Northwestern wasn't always the big recruiting background. It didn't field those competitive teams all the time. So, Fitzgerald was able to succeed just despite some of that. Do you think did it improve over the time that he was there? And what do you think he did recruiting wise, and can that carry over and kind of help him at Michigan State a little?
Yeah, so Fitz is beloved by high school football coaches.
Yeah.
And has a lot of those relationships that the lion's share of the, we know a lot of the families of the the Northwestern players that were recruited by Fitz over the last handful of years, and to almost to a person, they love the guy. He's really focused on the players. He's focused on their development. He's focused on not just the X's and O's on the field. And we always said from a program standpoint, Sunday to Friday, fantastic. Saturdays got problematic, particularly in those last 6 years. And I think the biggest bellwether for y'all is who he brings in as his coordinators.
Mm-hmm.
Northwestern kind of got into a bit of an echo chamber where they were always hiring Northwestern people for all the coaching roles. And we had this long period of time where it was the exact same coaching staff, and they wore that like a badge. And I think there were a lot of benefits from that continuity. It made Northwestern feel like a safer place, I think, with some of the people that you got in other places. We weren't firing people year in and year out.
Mm-hmm.
The problem was when some of those coaches underperformed and the execution on the field didn't match the talent.
Yeah.
We had a lot of problems for years with our offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
We had those final 2 years, our defensive coordinator, Mike Hinkowitz, who we stole from Wisconsin famously,
Mm-hmm.
retired. And Fitz replaced him with a guy named Jim O'Neill, who had been a defensive backs coach primarily in the NFL. I guess they had some history. They knew each other. They were buddies. And O'Neill was just a train wreck. I think Kenneth Walker is still running after that season opener in 2021. He absolutely, like that season, as that season went along, I'm sure y'all didn't pay much attention to us, but we had 13 linebackers on the roster that year, and we played 4.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, without naming names, that 2 of those guys could not get to the hole in time. They weren't fast enough,
Mm-hmm.
but they were tenured guys who've been in the program for a long time.
Yeah.
And like this persisted for an entire season. And then in 2022, it didn't get much better.
Mm-hmm.
And to Fitz's credit, he hired David Braun to come in and be the new DC.
Mm-hmm.
And then, everything happened, and Braun became the head coach. And with effectively the exact same personnel, our defense snapped back into position. And so there's a long-winded way of getting to, from a talent standpoint, I don't know that outside of the quarterback position, which Northwestern have really struggled with since 2018, we've had talent. We've especially on the defensive side of the ball, and Fitz is a huge piece of that as well. It was he never seemed super comfortable holding his coordinators accountable.
Mm-hmm.
He was never the X's and O's guys. Fitz has always been the definition of a CEO kind of type coach.
Yeah.
And while he played great defense, and he was a DC or a linebackers coach very, very briefly in a couple different stints before taking over at NU, that was never his strong suit. He's gonna espouse that very slow the game down, stretch out possessions, dominate, in a running game, and then shut them down on the other side and play very old school football.
Mm-hmm.
And a question we've been asking for 8 years now is how much of Northwestern's offensive ineptitude has been lack of good QB play, even when we've had good quarterbacks, like Peyton Ramsey, who came over from Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
The worst of his 4 years statistically was at Northwestern.
Mm-hmm.
And now, granted, that was COVID, so there's a lot of weird stuff going on there too. But by the same token, there was an offensive limiter, and you have to think some of that philosophically comes from Fitz, and it's a huge question of what does he do? What does he do now?
Yeah.
We quipped like D'Antonio probably stumped for Fitzgerald to get this role.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense from a culture standpoint, but it's also not 2015 anymore, and college football has changed a lot, and how he has evolved and how he can operate who he brings in to run his offense.
Yeah.
That is the biggest question
Yeah.
facing what he, whether he can get those first 3 years of success or do something more at Michigan State.
Yeah, that's where I do think I'm hoping at least the 3 years or 2 or 3 years off has maybe a benefit where he can get away from that a little bit and kind of look back at it and say what went wrong, what went right.
Yep.
And he can kind of see from an outside perspective how much the game has changed and how quickly it changes too. And it's how quickly it's going to continue to change and how, staying the same, being, for lack of a better term, a dinosaur is not going to work out anymore. Mm-hmm. I'm hoping that his time off can kind of give him that perspective. While we're on the recruiting topic, from the outsiders, everyone always talks about Northwestern's so handicapped recruiting because of the academic standards. Mm-hmm. Is that an outside thing, or is that true?
It's real.
Yeah.
I think the best way to couch it is that the football staff is not allowed to offer a player until admissions has reviewed them and basically said yes.
Yeah.
And so it very much limits the pool. Mm-hmm. Now, I would argue that, again, we've brought in a lot of talent and have not seen that talent progress on the field.
Yeah.
But there is no doubt that against the Michigans of the world, the Penn States of the world, the Ohio States of the world, it is very hard to compete at that level.
Yeah.
I think a lot of Fitz's success at Northwestern, which very earned,
mm-hmm.
what was it, those 4 years between 2015 and 2018, we won 9 or 10 almost every season.
Yeah.
The Big Ten West was a thing, and we took great advantage of the Big Ten West. Fitz built this team to mirror Iowa and Wisconsin and to match up very well with them. Mm-hmm. And that was a very smart, savvy, strategic move, and it paid dividends.
Yeah. Well, that's true.
Again, that's not the world we're living in now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think recruiting, defensive players, finding diamonds in the rough. Probably the most impressive thing he did during that time was created a very strong pipeline of defensive backs that had been a major gap for us, mm-hmm. and felt like a real challenge. We had found defensive linemen, we had found offensive linemen, running backs, quarterbacks, etc., linebackers mm-hmm. in particular over the years, but DB had been a big hole. Yeah, they addressed that really effectively. So, like, from that roster management, how you think about talent kind of perspective, I think like the whatever the academic standards were, they were working through them, working around them. Mm-hmm. I think the benefit that Fitz had in his role is having been a student athlete at Northwestern, knowing what it was like to a degree, mm-hmm. recruiting a lot of his former players as position coaches, mm-hmm. Enabled him to. The pitch was always, hey, you're coming to Northwestern. We're gonna look. We've got a handful of guys in the NFL. Like, if that's mm-hmm. the path you want, we'll help you get there.
Right.
But this is a 40-year decision, not a 4-year decision. Mm-hmm. And he could really back that up with where he came from, et cetera. So that became, he turned that disadvantage into an advantage, I think, mm-hmm. very effectively.
Yeah.
The other interesting component, which will not be a problem at Michigan State, and hopefully is no longer a problem at Northwestern, is the transfer portal.
Yeah.
So when the transfer portal became a thing,
mm-hmm.
the window for entering and exiting the portal was misaligned with Northwestern's academic calendar.
Yeah.
In a way that we were not able to accept winter transfers that were not graduate students.
Mm-hmm.
And so from 21 until literally last year, or 19, whenever the portal will start becoming a thing.
Yeah.
Until last year, when our new AD sat down with this university and was like, "Hey, can we figure this out?
We're gonna need this. It's lining up."
Yeah, it's the first time we've ever been able to accept undergraduate transfers.
Mm-hmm. That's big. Yeah.
In winter quarter.
Yeah.
And so to have somebody come in and then be ready for spring, I mean, it was a real detriment as other teams were, spinning up in that place. So, I mean, presumably that was a big factor the last
mm-hmm.
couple seasons that he was there too. But I think it'll be really interesting. I think he's a smart dude. I think he's pretty savvy. He understands football. He understands mm-hmm. the high school mindset, et cetera. if he can find that pitch from Michigan State and fit into it and build that culture, like he'll be able to build a pipeline and do good things for y'all.
Yeah. Yeah, in terms of NIL, I think that was just starting at the tail end of his tenure.
Yep. Oh, and he hated it. He hated it so much.
Exactly what I was wondering.
Yeah, not a fan. And I mean, he famously talked about cell phones one time at the Big Ten.
I remember that.
Big Ten coach day or media days. Said he hated cell phones. He wish he could throw them all in the lake. Called the RPO communism. I mean, he really embraced that old school mentality, and I certainly think some of that was said for effect. I think any good coach knows how to position themselves to take some of those bullets for the team, but there were times where you felt like it went a bit further. This is the other big question is at Northwestern, there's somebody from the Chicago Tribune, there's somebody from the Chicago Times, there's a handful of student reporters, maybe a guy from the radio station. It's a small media room. There's not a ton of pressure, and it is going to be a very different experience in East Lansing for him, and how he navigates that, how he handles that is going to be pretty interesting.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that the magnifying glass is much bigger in East Lansing for sure. So far, I've been impressed. I mean, I expected him to win the press conference. I think that's something that he's pretty good at. He speaks with a lot of passion, just high energy, which is total 180 from what we were coming from. So I expected him to be met with a lot of excitement right off the bat. But I'm interested to see if, we start off, 3-5, how things go from there, and how he handles that. But yeah, I think you put out the coordinating hires are huge for me, especially on the offensive side. Just because the Northwestern, wasn't exactly known for offense, right? Under his tenure, and that's not to say they didn't have some successful offenses. I mean, I remember a game from Michigan State where they outscored us pretty handily, and but I think that's kind of where, we were all kind of sitting on the edge of our seat waiting for that one. Travis, anything from you? I mean, Erik, you covered a lot. I think that I have questions to ask, and you kind of just answer them as we go. So I really appreciate that.
I mean, my next question was just going to be about what the feeling was around the offense when he was at Northwestern. And I mean, you mentioned he called the RPO communism. So I mean, it's kind of a modern staple of offenses. So what should we expect from that standpoint? Do you think?
Yeah. So I mean, it was a very, I mean, he wanted to see Northwestern built in the image of the team he played on in 95 and 96. So heavy running attack. We never had, I mean, probably the best wide receiver groups that we had at Northwestern over the course of his years were really good run blockers that also then had the physicality to be, threats downfield. I'm thinking of like a Kyle Prater, a guy that transferred back from USC. Rashad Lawrence was a guy we got out of Florida, who were, they were both, well, Prater was a 5-star coming out of high school. When he came out of USC, it was not viewed in the same light. But I think the difficulty, and it has extended beyond Fitz. We haven't had what I would look at as like a really modern, reliable passing attack in Evanston since like 2005 with Randy Walker, and even like Clayton Thorson was our starting QB for 4 years, but he was not a 300 yards a game kind of guy. I mean, there were a couple seasons where he hit that multiple games in a row, but we've really lived in that like mid 200s and relied on the running game for the bulk of Fitz's tenure. Early on, there was a tendency to really turtle shell and get super conservative at the end of games. Only ever run the ball, not get the first down. Somebody, and then how that story ends, right? Actually, it might have actually been against Michigan State in like 07 or in 2011, whereas like for the first time, we're backed up, we've got the lead, 3 minutes left in the game, and they threw 3 times in a row to get a first down, keep the clock going, and it was one of those like aha moments of look, it can work if you just
it does work, yeah.
And so much of that play call stuff is like armchair quarterbacking after the fact.
Sure.
Like I don't know what's going on in the moment. I don't know what they're observing, etc. But I think the best way I can say it is that while the running game felt like it felt like it'd be very difficult for Northwestern to come from behind. That is how it always felt. And if we were not, and if we were up against a team that could stymie our running game throughout the course of the game, you could just feel the pinchers closing and the quarterback's options going down, and ultimately would end up in a ton of throws off the back foot and interceptions and et cetera. So I know the offense wasn't an afterthought for him. I know he did not actually want to win games like 7-6,
right?
But it felt and coupled with the let's try to be like Iowa and mirror Iowa so we can compete in the Big Ten West for championships. Like it's not too far off from how Ferentz has operated. And so I think who the coordinator is really important. What sort of leash Fitzgerald gives the coordinator is important. We famously let Mick McCall go in 2019 and hired Mike Bajakian, who had been, he had run offenses at let's say Cincinnati, Boston College, Tennessee, and he had always been in like the 40s of S&P plus. He'd start like low 60s, 70s, and he'd get it up into the 50s by year 2 and up into 40s, maybe even high 30s by year 3. And at Northwestern, his offenses for 4 years were like 94th or worst in S&P plus.
Yeah.
And so the guy has done it somewhere else. You've got talent on the roster.
Yeah.
But something's not clicking, and it is hard. It's hard to say, well, is that Fitz? Is it not Fitz?
Yeah.
What role does he have in it? And if nothing else, he wasn't probably giving enough rope or enough direction. Whatever was missing. There was something missing. The one other thing that I think is probably a potential upside for him at Michigan State. I mentioned how a lot of the coaching staff, it was very Northwestern heavy in terms of experience, where people came from, et cetera. It really felt like an echo chamber. And in those last couple of years, we had a new AD who was not great. There was turmoil in the president's office. Fitzgerald had no real oversight. He had nobody playing that foil for him, and I don't think that was a healthy place to be. And so there was nobody saying to him, "Hey, look at what else is going on. You have to adapt. You have to change. You have to think differently." And being in a brand new place, figuring out, a whole new world, et cetera. I don't think he's going to be calling up his old Northwestern coaches to come to Michigan State. You know what I mean? And I'm sure he's sitting down with D'Antonio or whomever, that's the right brain trust to understand. All right, who should we be looking at, and bouncing those ideas. I just don't think a lot of idea bouncing was happening the last few years at Northwestern, and that's the biggest upside probably for y'all, is to be able to get the energy and the culture and the blue chip attitude with the effectiveness of teaching college kids and teaching the game of football in an environment that's more conducive to Fitz evolving and growing and kind of expanding his approach. That's probably the best case scenario.
I would agree. That's like the perfect path, right? The happy path that gets Michigan State to where they need to be. And we're not all that unfamiliar with the same voice kind of going stale. The echo chamber. Every time you kind of talk about that, I think about D'Antonio's last 2 or 3 seasons.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Not
I know I keep referencing him, but
it kind of went the same way. Just not firing coordinators, very loyal to coordinators. Offense was the exact same. Like, you can't really run the ball if the offensive line is not good, but we're still just trying to run the ball. But we've talked a lot about those last three or four seasons, and I think that's, as a Michigan State fan, my biggest, like, oh, hold on now. Let's not all go crazy yet for this guy. And it sounds like there's kind of a culmination of things that went wrong, right? The echo chamber, the lack of infrastructure with the AD and the president, maybe some coaching decisions. Is there anything else that we're missing that went wrong with because I mean, from a team that was just churning out 7 to 10 win seasons for a while, and really, like, whenever we played Northwestern, I was always like, son of a bitch, like, these guys are going to be a tough out. Like, I expect to win, but, like, I just know, especially if we're playing at Ryan Field, like,
tough,
is there anything we're missing in those last 3 years?
It's the quarterback. The quarterback is so Thorson was our starter for 4 years. That was the apex of Fitz's tenure. We finished that with I think a 10-3 season, or 10-2. Did we go? Well, anyway, 2018 when we played Ohio State in the Big Ten Championship, and then went and won our bowl game, et cetera. Like, that was the high water mark. The following year, the drop off at quarterback was insane, and we had pulled Hunter Johnson away from Clemson, high star guy, et cetera, who clearly just did not fit. Couldn't play the leadership role that was needed, and the story that we have heard is that a lot of the other guys that were in the QB room did not prepare as if they were going to play that season, and then when they were pressed into duty, it just compounded the problems, and it was a total disaster. That's ultimately why the offensive coordinator Mick McCall got let go. And following year, 2020, we pull in Ramsey from Indiana, who transfers. We kind of have this magical run where nobody on the team gets COVID. We we don't have to play Minnesota. That game gets canceled. We end up again 6-2, I think, and again in the Big Ten championship. The defense is great. We give Ohio State a hell of a game. We go beat Auburn, and we're all thinking 2019 is the blip.
Yeah.
And Fitz even said at the end of that year, I think we thumped Illinois kind of unexpectedly in the last game of the season to wrap it up, and he kind of gave this speech, or we're 3-9, we made some mistakes, we didn't prepare, like, never again, never again.
Yeah.
And then 2021, the exact same thing happened. We had nothing at the quarterback position. The defense fell off a cliff with the DC change that I had mentioned, and so. But that quarterback through line of just like never being able to figure it out, whether it was recruiting and whatever scouting mechanism was off there, we were not finding the right talent.
Yeah.
And then guys that we did pull in through the portal. Ramsey was a senior and he did great. Ben Bryant, who we got in 2022, was a senior and he did great. Preston Stone this year was up and down, but generally pretty like stable, but there's just as many guys that did not work out. And I know the portal's a bit of a crapshoot at the QB position, et cetera, but that having hit your apex and then fall so quickly, so fast, and have seemingly no plan was a real surprise. And whether that's Northwestern just couldn't afford a QB through the NIL channels that we're building,
right,
or we didn't have the right brain trust on the offensive side, or we didn't have, the offensive line in those years was real up and down too, so you didn't have the protection you might need for a guy coming in without a lot of continuity with the team. You had wild swings from running QBs to pro style QBs to running QBs that wouldn't run to pro style QBs that needed to run. It's been 6 years of just very, very questionable situations, and that bridges outside of Fitz's
right
10 years. So maybe this is just a Northwestern problem, but it wasn't really working for him either. And so the OC hire is going to be really important. What he does with the quarterback is going to be really important. And that's a kind of a dumb. That's it's like the dumbest thing you could say about football right now in
Right.
this day and age.
Yeah.
Like it's
That
the
is
most
true.
important position, but
Yeah.
that has been the conundrum for Northwestern.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we've had our quarterback struggles lately too. So
Yeah.
we definitely, I mean, got a Chicago kid that we think's a pretty good one right now. So hopefully
Fingers
he
crossed.
sticks around and keeps
Yeah.
playing the way he does.
Yeah. Well, Erik, thanks again for your time. This was really great. Really great insight. Where can our listeners find Westlot Pirates?
Yeah, so we're at westlotpirates.com or at Westlot Pirates on pretty much everything. We are I think the only Northwestern podcast. There have been some others that have popped up over the years, but they haven't. It takes some tenacity, I guess, to stick with this program for this long. But yeah, that's where you can find us. We're usually pretty active on Twitter on game day, and we always like to engage with folks out there. So
Awesome.
Yeah, if anybody's looking for some intel on the Cats or otherwise, just give us a holler.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate that, and we will be in touch. I know Northwestern's on the schedule next year, so hopefully we can get a show on the books before that game. But we look forward to it and wishing you the best of luck in basketball season too.
Yeah, it'll be should be fun.
Yeah,
we'll see. We're not looking so hot on the interior in basketball, so I don't know what this year is going to look like, but we'll see how we go.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks again, Erik. Really appreciate it. And that'll do it for the episode 82 of the Spartan Savants podcast. Of course, as always, you can find us on X, Instagram, and wherever you get your podcasts, and also on YouTube. Thanks again, Erik. We really appreciate it. And I would encourage all of our fans to go check out the Westlot Pirates as well. But with that, for Travis and Erik, we'll see you all soon. Thanks.